Figuring out why you're here can feel overwhelming. The world tells us to chase success, compare ourselves, and earn our purpose. But what if it's already been given to you? Today, we'll discover how God's purpose isn't something you achieve, it's something you live. Purpose isn't about striving, it's about trusting the one who created you. Let go of the pressure, embrace His plan, and see your life through the lenses of His love. Remember those magic 8 balls from when we were kids? I found mine while cleaning out my old bedroom in my parents' house. There I was, sitting cross-legged on my childhood floor, surrounded by boxes of memories, when I picked it up and asked, what should I do with my life? The answer? Ask again later. I had to laugh. Even a toy from the 90s was avoiding the big questions. I spent the next hour asking the magic 8 ball increasingly specific questions. Should I go back to school? Should I stay at my job? Should I move cities? How many kids should I have? Each time getting wonderfully vague answers like, cannot predict now, or reply hazy, try again. And isn't that just like life? We're out here looking for clear answers, and sometimes it feels like we're getting nothing but ask again later. Have you ever paused and really asked yourself, why am I here? It's one of those questions that seems simple on the surface, but the deeper you go, the more layers there are. Sometimes this question comes up in big moments, like graduation, or when you're starting a new job, or even when you're feeling completely lost. Other times, it's a quiet thought that slips into your mind when things are calm, and you're left wondering if there's more to life than what you're experiencing right now. In our culture, we're bombarded with ideas of purpose and meaning, and it could be overwhelming. We're told to chase our dreams, to become our best selves, to make an impact. Those are beautiful ideals, but they often come with pressure. And sometimes, even with all these motivational messages, we're still left wondering if we're on the right path, if we're living out the purpose we're supposed to fulfill. It's like we're trying to hit a target, but we're not even sure where this target is. For young people especially, the pressure to have it all figured out can be pretty intense. Think about it, we're constantly being asked, what are you going to do with your life? We get asked about our goals, our career paths, our ambitions, almost as if our worth is tied up in how much we've accomplished or how much we're planning to do next. But deep down, we know that the what of our lives doesn't fully answer the why. The accomplishments and accolades can be great, but they don't get to the core of what brings meaning to our lives. And without knowing the why, we often feel like we're just drifting or even stuck in the cycle of what's next. There's a story of a man who spent years searching for meaning in his life. He tried just about everything. He chased success. He built up his career. He sought relationships. He even tried filling the emptiness with material things. Yet, even when he achieved his goals, that lingering question kept coming back. Why am I here? Nothing he tried was able to silence that question. It was only when he looked beyond himself, beyond what he could accomplish, that he started to see that his purpose wasn't something he could create on his own. It was something that was already woven into who he was, waiting to be discovered, not achieved. The story of this man reflects a reality that a lot of us struggle with. We're taught that purpose is something we have to achieve or earn, and that only after we've made it can we feel fulfilled. But what if purpose isn't about what we do at all? What if it's more about how we live and who we're becoming? The Bible offers a perspective on purpose that's completely different from what society teaches. In Jeremiah 29:11, my favorite verse in the Bible, God says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." This verse tells us that purpose isn't a mystery we have to solve. It's something that's already known by God. And even more than that, our purpose is designed to bring us hope and a future, not anxiety or pressure. When we think about purpose in this light, it changes everything. Instead of striving to find our purpose or feeling pressure to make an impact, we can live with the sense of peace, knowing that God has already mapped out a plan for each and every one of us. Our lives have meaning because they're part of His design. It's not about how well we perform or how much we achieve. It's about living out God's plan with a willing and open heart. So today, as we dive deeper into this question of why am I here, let's try to set aside the pressures and the expectations. Let's look beyond what the world tells us about success and purpose and open our hearts to what God might be saying. Because maybe, just maybe, the answer we're looking for has been there all along, waiting for us to look in His direction. After this quick break, we're going to break down what God meant in His purpose for us. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, good to see you today here at the Lenses of Love set. I love to watch Sam's message and learn from him how to see God and His Word through the lenses of love. Perhaps you would like to learn more about other questions of life. For example, why am I here? Is there a God? Why is there so much evil and suffering? And why are there so many different religions, and which one is true? Is the Bible fact or fiction? Who is Jesus of Nazareth? Was He truly God as Christians say He is? Why did Jesus come to earth to die? And how does His death offer us salvation? What happens when I die? Is there really a heaven or a hell? These questions and others we answer on our online Bible study platform at hopestudy.ca. There, you will find answers to these and other crucial life questions. We would love to hear from you. Please email us at hopestudy@hopetv.ca. And remember, there is hope and answers to life's biggest questions in the Word of God.
When we talk about purpose, we often associate it with career goals, talents, or a checklist of achievements. Society often pushes us to think our purpose is something we need to chase, attain, or craft ourselves. But God's view of purpose goes much deeper than that. It's about who we are at our core and the reason we were created in the first place. I want you to think about this. God had a unique purpose for us before we even took our first breath. We didn't have to earn it or discover it like buried treasure. It was there, waiting for us, woven into our very being by the one who created us. In Jeremiah 1 verse 5, God says to Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." Imagine being Jeremiah, hearing that God had a plan for him even before he was aware of his own existence. This verse speaks powerfully to us too. It shows that God's purpose for each of us isn't something we need to earn or prove. It's something we grow into as we build our relationship with Him. Our purpose is rooted in the fact that He designed us with it in mind from the start. Just like Jeremiah, we don't have to figure it all out by ourselves. This doesn't mean we'll have every detail figured out from day one. Many of us, like Jeremiah, we have doubts. Am I actually enough? Do I really have anything to offer? These are natural questions, and even the prophets felt them. But just like God reassured Jeremiah, He reassures us today that we're not alone in discovering our purpose. He walks with us, patiently guiding us and unfolding His purpose for our lives step by step. God's purpose isn't about a perfect plan where everything goes smoothly. Instead, it's a journey filled with moments of growth, moments of learning, and even moments of mistakes. God's purpose is flexible enough to encompass our mess ups and still bring us where He wants us to be. He doesn't call us to have a flawless journey. He calls us to be open to Him and to trust that He's guiding us even when the path ahead isn't clear. Think about David in the Bible. Before he was king, he was a shepherd. Before he was a warrior, he was a musician. Each season of his life wasn't just a stepping stone to his real purpose. Each season was his purpose for that time. While tending sheep, he learned leadership. While playing music, he learned how to minister to others. While running from Saul, he learned how to depend on God. Every experience, every season was purposeful. Sometimes we get caught up thinking purpose has to look dramatic or world-changing. We scroll through social media seeing people starting nonprofits, becoming missionaries, or leading massive movements and ministries. And we think, that must be what purpose looks like. But what if purpose is found in the everyday moments too? What if it's in how we treat the barista making our drink at Starbucks, or how we support a friend going through a tough time, or how we approach daily work? Purpose isn't just about what we do, it's about who we become in the process. It's about allowing God to shape our character, develop our faith, and transform us more into His image. Sometimes the most significant purpose-filled moments aren't the ones that make headlines, but the quiet acts of faithfulness that no one else sees. Comparison can be one of the most destructive habits we develop, and in today's world, it's almost impossible to avoid. We're constantly surrounded by images, by stories, by updates that make it seem that like everyone else is thriving, building successful careers, getting fit, achieving milestones, and living the perfect life. And so almost without thinking, we start holding our own lives up to the polished, edited, and filtered lives we see around us. We measure our worth based on how we stack up to others, and when we inevitably fall short, it can make us feel inadequate, discouraged, and even resentful. The problem with comparison is that it's a moving target. There will always be someone who seems to be achieving more, has a more prestigious title, or appears to be living the life we wish we had. Comparison doesn't leave us feeling motivated. Instead, it often leaves us feeling defeated, like we'll never be good enough. This cycle can be especially hard for young adults who are trying to establish their place in the world. We think, if I can just get to where they are, then I'll be happy. But by the time we get there, there's a new goal to strive for because someone else has reached yet another level. This mindset can be a significant trap affecting our mental health, our relationships, and even our faith. When we constantly compare ourselves, it's hard to appreciate what we already have. We start to see our own journey as insufficient and our accomplishments as less valuable. Instead of celebrating others' success and our own, we may find ourselves slipping into envy, slipping into frustration, or even bitterness. This isn't only destructive for our own self, it's also a barrier to building authentic, supportive relationships with others. Comparison turns friends into competitors, robbing us of genuine connections and the joy of truly celebrating others. Comparison often blinds us to our own unique purpose. Each of us is on a path designed by God, a life filled with experiences, talents, and opportunities unique to who we are. Yet, when we fixate on someone else's path, we lose sight of what God is doing in our own lives. We can overlook our own blessings simply because they don't look like someone else's. This disconnect can lead to restlessness, dissatisfaction, or even make us question God's love and purpose for us. Think about the heroes of faith in the Bible. See, by worldly standards, many of them might have seemed like failures. Think about Noah. Noah spent years building an ark while others mocked him. Joseph endured years in prison before his purpose unfolded. Moses led a group of complaining people through the desert for 40 years. These don't exactly sound like success stories by today's standards, do they? But in God's eyes, each one succeeded simply by staying faithful to their calling, even when it defied worldly logic. Take Jeremiah as an example. Success for him wasn't about gaining popularity or respect. His calling often put him at odds with others, leading to rejection, ridicule, and even imprisonment. But in God's view, Jeremiah was fulfilling his purpose by faithfully doing what he was called to do. For us, success is pretty similar. It's about being faithful to what God has given us right where we are. It's about showing up, living out his love, and impacting those around us, even if no one notices. Look at how Jesus defined success. He spent his time with ordinary people in ordinary places, having ordinary conversations. Rather than seeking the high and the mighty, he invested deeply in 12 disciples, most of whom were unimpressive by society's standards. When his followers argued about who would be the greatest, Jesus flipped the concept of greatness on its head, teaching that the greatest should be like servants. Think about the people who made the biggest impact on your life. Often they aren't the ones with the flashy titles or the impressive resumes. They're the ones who showed kindness when you needed it, who listened when you felt unheard, or who encouraged you when you were down. Maybe it was someone who believed in you, a friend who stuck by you during a tough time, or a mentor who invested in you without expecting anything in return. This kind of impact, simple, faithful, and humble, is the kind of success God calls us to, and it doesn't require fame or a platform. The Bible also reminds us how easy it is to be distracted by comparison. Think about Peter in the Gospel of John. After Jesus' resurrection, Peter learns about his calling and his future. And instead of fully embracing it, his immediate reaction is to look at John and ask, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus' response is direct. "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." In essence, Jesus tells Peter not to concern himself with someone else's path, but to focus on his own. And that's a powerful reminder that comparison can distract us from fully following Jesus and embracing our own purpose. God doesn't measure our worth by comparing us to others. His love and purpose for each of us are unconditional. They don't depend on how much we measure up to someone else. In God's view, we're not defined by a checklist of achievements or how closely our lives mirror those around us. He sees each of us individually, knows us personally, and values us uniquely. There's a freedom in knowing that we don't have to compete for God's love or his approval. He created us with a specific purpose that's ours alone. And he values our faithfulness, not our ability to match someone else's accomplishments. In the end, God is inviting us to embrace the life he has uniquely designed for each of us, free from the weight of comparison. When we stop looking sideways and start looking up, we find a peace that only he can give, a peace rooted in his unwavering love for us. So, what can we do to break free from the comparison trap? One of the most powerful steps is to practice gratitude. When we intentionally focus on what we're grateful for, we begin to see unique ways God is working in our lives. Instead of focusing on what we lack or what others have, we start to appreciate the blessings that are right in front of us. Gratitude shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance, reminding us that God has already provided us with so much. Another step is to remind ourselves of our identity in Christ. Our value isn't tied to what we do or how we compare to others. It's grounded in who God says we are, loved, chosen, and redeemed. When we remember our identity, we become less vulnerable to the pressures of comparison because we know our worth is secure in God's love. We no longer have to wait or strive for approval or validation because we are already fully accepted by the one who matters most. Lastly, let's take a lesson from Jesus' words to Peter and focus on our own path. When we're tempted to look around and compare, let's remember that each person's journey is uniquely crafted by God. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? We can ask, Lord, what do you want me to do with what you've given me? This shift allows us to focus on living out our own calling, celebrating the successes of others without feeling diminished by them. Don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll dive deeper into how understanding God's purpose for your life can bring freedom from comparison and help you embrace the life He's uniquely designed for you.
Hello friends, it is great to be here with you on Lenses of Love today. I trust that you've been blessed by this program, and I hope that you're able to share it with your loved ones. Thank you for your support so far. It means the world to us, really. And if you want to help us, if you haven't already partnered with us as an agent of hope, I briefly wanted to share with you how to do so. Above all, we desire your prayers. Please remember those who are involved with Hope Channel Canada and the production of its programs, as well as the different initiatives that we'll be launching throughout the country. I also ask your prayers for the hearts of people all across Canada, that they will be open to learning that in Jesus there is more to life. Anytime you have to spare in order to volunteer with one of our projects will be greatly appreciated. Please feel free to contact us at either agentsofhope@hopetv.ca or visit agentsofhope.ca to have your questions answered and to learn where you can be of service. And finally, your financial support would be greatly appreciated, and any amount makes a huge difference in impacting Canadians all across our nation. Please visit agentsofhope.ca so that you can donate online via debit, credit, Google Pay, or Apple Pay to make a one-time or recurring donation. If you prefer to donate offline, you can e-transfer us at agentsofhope@hopetv.ca or mail a check to Hope Channel Canada at the following address: Hope Channel Canada, 1148 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H1H8. Thank you once again for joining us on this exciting journey.
Breaking free from comparison is a process, but with God's help, we can learn to embrace our own journey and appreciate the purpose He set before us. In His love, there's room for all of us to grow, succeed, and find joy, not by matching someone else's life, but by living fully in the one He's given to us. So let's let go of the comparison trap and step into the freedom that comes from knowing that we are enough, just as we are in God's eyes. Let's go back to the question asked at the beginning of today's episode. Why am I here? So many of us go through life looking for meaning, searching for purpose, and measuring ourselves against others in the hope of finding our worth. But true purpose isn't something we can find by comparing ourselves to anyone else. It's discovered by seeing ourselves through God's eyes filled with love, grace, and a vision for who we're meant to be. The heroes of faith we admire weren't celebrated by the world's standards. They faced setbacks, rejection, and hardship, and sometimes felt unworthy of their calling. Yet in God's view, they were successful because they remained faithful to His purpose for them, even when it didn't make sense. Their answer to why am I here wasn't found in fame or accomplishments, but in faithfully embracing the path God placed before them, trusting Him every step of the way. Going back to that magic 8-ball, its answers were always vague, like ask again later or reply hazy. Life can feel a lot like that sometimes. But with God, we don't have to guess our purpose. He's not withholding answers from us. He's inviting us to trust Him step by step. Unlike the magic 8-ball, God's plans for us aren't hazy or unpredictable. They're intentional, they're personal, and they're filled with hope. Imagine how much lighter life would feel if we could let go of the burden of comparison and fully accept our God-given identity. What if, instead of seeking validation from the world, we found joy in knowing that God has a unique calling for each and every one of us? When we understand that why am I here isn't about living up to others' expectation, but about living out God's love in everyday moments, we discover a peace that goes beyond achievements and accolades. Purpose isn't just about the big moments, it's about the small ones too. It's found in everyday acts of kindness, faithfulness, and love. It's in how we show up for others, how we reflect God's character, and how we let Him work through us even when no one else is watching. Breaking free from the comparison trap is a choice we make every single day. Instead of looking around with envy or insecurity, let's look up to God and let Him show us our own path, our own purpose. Let's ask Him to reveal the blessings He has placed uniquely in our lives, even if they don't look like anyone else's. Because when we understand that our worth is found in Him, we can rest in knowing that we are deeply loved, wholly accepted, and entirely enough. God's purpose for you unfolds over time. It's not always clear in the moment, but He's weaving every experience, every joy, and every challenge into something beautiful. So when you feel uncertain, take heart. He's leading you, one step at a time, toward the person He created you to be. The people who have impacted our lives the most probably weren't the ones with the flashiest resumes or the biggest platforms. They were the ones who were simply present. They were the ones who listened and who showed us kindness. This is the kind of life God invites us to live. A life where our purpose is defined not by what we achieve, but by how we love. So, as you move forward, may you hold onto the truth that your purpose is personal, that God has placed you here intentionally. He doesn't call you to compete. He calls you to connect with Him, with others, and with His purpose for your life. My hope is that you find the answer to why am I here, not in striving for success, but in showing up faithfully, living out His love, and bringing His light to a world that is searching for hope and meaning. When we let go of comparison and embrace our unique purpose, we were free to experience a life defined by peace, joy, and fulfillment. A life that reflects God's heart and invites others to ask their own questions of purpose and belonging. This is the life God has called each of us to live, and this is where we see life clearly through the lenses of love.